nobody is going to use their crayons on my film. You've heard stories about him and his acting, and all of a sudden you find yourself one-on-one with him in the living room, chatting and talking about, what I would be doing. And I was a little bit nervous, but that wore off because he needed help. He needed somebody, not just a driver. He needed somebody as a friend and a confidant and all of that, his right-hand man. I was staying at an apartment that was operated by a Yugoslavian woman in 1979. Her name was Darinka Hizak. Well, she was very important as to how I got to be driving for Orson. She was a close friend of Oya Kodar, who was the woman that was living at the Welles house, and that was actually Orson's, how would you say it, his paramour. So she told me, she says, Freddie, Oya says that Orson needs a driver, and they're looking for somebody, and I understand you need work. I said, yeah, I was laid off at KCOP. I'm not working. I'll take it. I need a job, so I'll take the driving job. Well, a lot of people have said that when I told them I drove for Orson Welles, and they figure, oh, you must have driven a fancy car. Said, no, it was my car, and it happened to be a 1971 Buick Riviera, and it had air shocks. In other words, like a boat tail, the equivalent to the Buick Riviera would be the smaller, the Corvette, that had the boat tail. But this Riviera, there was a port where you put an air hose in it, and you could fill it with air, and it would raise the back of the car. And he liked that. He liked it was all black leather seating and all of that, very, very pleasant. It was very nicely upholstered, and he liked riding in that car. And that's the car that I used mostly in the 5 years that I was with him. And there were times when I had to take him to a recording session, and it might have been all day, and sometimes the client would provide transportation for him in the form of a limousine, which he, that's what they wanted to provide. What he would do is put the wheelchair, of course he wanted to be comfortable and wanted to play favorites and all of that, faking this hurts and that hurts, just to get around, But anyway, he would put the wheelchair in the limousine, knowing that people knew that he was going somewhere, and they would follow the limousine. And then later on, he got into my car, and I took him to the session, and they were wondering where the hell he was. You heard stories about him eating 5 hot dogs at a time. He never did it when I was working with him, but I'm sure in the early years, he probably would get 5 or 6 hot dogs from Pink's or something like that. My mother, he got a taste of my mother's cooking, and he really raved about her lentil soup. I couldn't believe that. He said, oh, Freddie, your mother makes some great lentil soup. So I brought a pot over to his place. Of all things, would you believe that he liked corned beef hash? I cooked it in the kitchen there. It was very simple. In an old-fashioned frying pan. But he was very down-to-earth, very natural kind of a guy, and when he would laugh, it would billow in that living room. It was just like a big bravado, almost like an opera. The air that he used when he laughs almost sounded like an opera singer. And he'd see some of these people on television, and he'd laugh and joke about, look at that idiot up there. That was one of the most devastating time in my life, to meet, to be with a guy who I respected his work and all of that, and be the guy that had to find, the one that found him and break the news to everybody else. it was it was traumatic. It really was for a long time, really.